To run a successful business, sound business decisions are to be taken. Decisions cannot be taken on whim because it is hard due to uncertainty and enormous amount of alternatives available. A structured process is to be followed. Decision making means making a choice among available options. A decision can only be made when there are multiple options. Let us look at the steps involved in decision making process. The first step is identifying problem and defining the goal. We need to first identify what is the problem that we are planning to solve or what is the goal that we are trying to achieve. Correct problem identification is important as the solutions are dependent on this problem statement. Let us take an example of an ice cream business. The sales have been going down. So the problem identified here is that sales are low and the goal is to increase the sales. The next step is diagnosing the problem and collecting relevant information. Once the problem statement has been identified, we need to find the root cause of the problem. Only when we know what is causing the problem, then only we can take action to resolve. To find the root cause of the problem, business needs to gather relevant information available from various sources like business performance data, market trends, market performance, balance sheet, etc. In the example of ice cream business, the business have noticed that their sales of ice cream were going down. When they studied the market, the business found out that competitors were offering not just ice cream but other alternative products, which has international appeal and is trendy like gelato, ice cream cake, etc. This was an information which they have gathered. The next step is identifying the alternative solutions. Once the problem has been defined and sufficient information has been gathered to find the root cause, the next step is to find out what are all the possible options available for the business to choose from. In our example of ice cream business, the root cause identified is that the product sold by the business is traditional and it is same offering as it was earlier, and customers' preference have changed into trendy products. In this case, the business narrowed down to two paths. The first one is that they sell ice creams as earlier, but they introduce a new range of international flavors, which is perceived as trendy. The next option is that they maintain the same range of ice cream and introduce additional range of products with international appeal like gelato, sorbet and ice cream cake. These are the two alternatives which the business has identified. The next step is evaluating the alternate solution. Now that we have the options in front of us, the next step is to evaluate these options. Determine how will each option end up if implemented. Evaluate each of the scenario and determine if the problem which is identified in step 1 is being resolved or not. Upon evaluation, rank these alternatives based on priority. The ice cream business team have evaluated both the options and have decided that the second option of offering new range of products is a better alternative, since during their information gathering stage, they found out that customer preferences have shifted from ice cream to other alternative products. Also, these products fetch higher amount from customers, even though the cost of making them is similar. Thus, it will lead to increase in profit. Once the solution has been evaluated, the next step is selecting the best alternative. In our example of ice cream, second option of alternative has been selected. Once the problem has been identified and we have gathered relevant information and identified the alternative solution, and we have evaluated these solution to select the best alternative, the next step is execution of action plan, which is implementing this option. Finally, it's time to take action. The decision made is correct or not will only be determined once it is implemented. In our example of ice cream, the business had decided to launch new products. So, manufacturing, marketing, distribution needs to be done as part of the implementation. The next step is follow-up. We need to continuously monitor the performance after decision has been taken and implemented. This will tell us if we have fulfilled our goal and solved the problem at hand. In case the result is not what we had desired, the process starts all over again, starting from information gathering stage. In our example of ice cream business, we need to measure sales after the new products have been launched. Did it improve the sales? How was customers' response to these new products? We need to analyze to see what is the response of customer. So now we have learned the 7-step decision making process, which is widely used in businesses in making decision in a structured way.